And next we have Illusions, the Blacklight Chronicles, book number 1, written by Joseph Phelps. It is a massive 613 pages, $5 even, available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. When an overly powerful guild threatens to take over an entire server in the world's premier crime game, it falls to a new player and his small but powerful crew of friends to stop them. The Life of Crime is Blacklight Industries' second major immersive experience. Everyone played their first, the world-famous fantasy game, Brescia Online. Now, years later, the company is focused on a different genre entirely. Once plugged into the game world, you feel as though you're back in the early 21st century, and thanks to their powerful immersive AI, have all the freedom to shape the world around you one could hope for. Players build crews control turf, and fight one another tooth and nail for it, rising to great power and status along the way. Each server houses a major metropolitan city, and the West Coast US server, Illusion, is being threatened with total takeover by an unscrupulous and power-hungry crew named GoonStorm. Kurt joins the game 3 years after its release, at the request of his lifelong friend Jimmy, and in response to getting kicked out of college. The pair falls in with the getaway gal, the life's most famous driver, and joins her campaign to stop Illusion's most powerful guild from taking over the server entirely. Kurt sets off on a series of elaborate and harrowing heists and guerrilla warfare action towards this goal, making powerful allies and enemies along the way. Okay, well, that's definitely a novel description. It actually hits all the main points of the story. It's a little spoilery, but it is accurate. For me, this is a little bit of story that is part Grand Theft Auto and part heist film. And I think that those aspects are not highlighted enough in that novel description, like the over-the-top action and heist elements and escape ways are probably the thing that I think most readers were really going to enjoy about, at least the reviewers that I've read up before. The game mechanics on the show are definitely based on GTA and expanding to include those skills levels, weaponry rarity, hideouts, upgrades, a whole slew of like notifications that you can see. This novel is relatively crunchy. And that throughout the entire novel. Personally, I like this story. However, the beginning of it was probably my least favorite part. A lot of the beginning portion when he's in the game at first feels very random. It feels like kind of an info dump at some point, and that's mostly just because there are so many things that have to be explained because this isn't a D&D system. Because it's based on a different game mechanics system, everything has to be explained, like stealth mechanics, the territory mechanics, the thing between guilds, how you progress, skill progression, all the stuff. So it gets a little info dumping in the beginning. But once it got past that point, once it got to the actual plotted heist, the story became more focused, and I actually enjoyed it more. It's sort of the difference between the random open world parts of GTA and the story quest. I personally always like the latter more. And again, the over-the-top action is a big part of the novel. And they're fun, but they didn't always appeal to me personally just because I'm such a game mechanic nerd that my brain always has to compare to what's happening here with the game mechanics that are established. And sometimes those escapes and those over-the-top moments, which are very fun, didn't always feel grounded in the game mechanics. For example, a lot of stuff with the main character who had just started this game, like literally the first time in the story. He has low-level skills. He has no class, yet he's a perfect badass a lot of times. He shoots and it doesn't really seem to miss. He succeeds on a bunch of high-end, late-game difficult quests, and he's only played the game for hours or days, yet he's always successful. You could tell some of the scenes were written more for fun than for strictly following RPG logic or game mechanics, and I'll admit the scenes are fun. However, I also want to make sure it's clear that the author goes out of his way to try, at least, to explain all the things the main character does in story with game mechanics. It's just that, for me, I'm like, he seems like he's a level 1 character, succeeding in high-end content, and that's always going to create a schism. The other members of his heist crew are all players who are high-end. They max out their skill levels. They max out their classes. They've been playing since the game started, 2 or 3 years, and yet the main character, new to the game, is as powerful as them, or more so, depending on the situation. And that always didn't ring as true in my brain. And I know it's set up for fun, and the scenes are fun. It's just that brought down my enjoyment a little bit. Overall, though, I like the story. I like the fact that it tries to use a different game as a base system. I was never personally a huge fan of Grand Theft Auto, so it didn't resonate with me as much as it might with some other people. But I still find it entertaining. So for me, it gets a score of 7.2 out of 10. Good score, a little on the lower end of my enjoyment scale there for the good ranking of 7, but still had a good time with it. Gets a score of, again, 7.2 out of 10 for Illusion, the Blacklight Chronicles, book number 1, with the score of, again, 7.2 out of 10.